Hello. When we define words with letters, all these definitions that we make and that we make by combining a certain logic, by directing our thoughts with these letters, a lot of these references of directions that we use are not based upon certainties but upon uncertainties of tryouts. That's what language is about. It tries out directions, sees where it is, tries to describe it and see what it will be able to control actually as a definition. And that means also that there is some uncontrollable parts in it as well, open factors as well, uncertain factors as well. And so the whole language is based upon combining not yeses and nos, as we are too much using in our thoughts. No, it's yeses, nos, and these uncertainties that find out its way to the right descriptions then actually what it is. So we had already 9 positions that were actually quite certain with some minor uncertainties in there, but we had more or less the positions of that we can define it. 9 sorts of definitions in the first 9 letters that are associated with it. But we can also go further and have also an idea of, but where does it go to? And then we go actually into the uncertainties there, because we're not certain if we can really reach the directions that things are evolving into. So it is a kind of, I add an extra dimension in time, usually. And hopefully I can reach it. Hopefully I can make that change. Hopefully I can reach that point in time and space that I'm focusing upon. And that's the next level actually. And it also uses dimensions then differently than in the 3 dimensions, because it has these extra dimensions that has a projection where it will project its 0 point to another point. And hopefully it will reach it, or maybe it will not reach it. We're not certain at that point, but we are directing all the things to that area. And we hopefully go to what we generally call the other, to that point where we say, okay, this is the thing that we can understand, that we can reach, that is the point of change, that has that rhythm from me to you to the other, and I can reach that point. Directing something towards it doesn't mean that it's immediately defining the second position very well. No, it's directing towards it. It doesn't know it well, and it could also go too far with it, or pushes it too far, and so on. Like with the letter P here as well. And so you have the possibility of reaching it, but you also have a possibility of not reaching it, to go too far. So there is a trick to limit ourselves, just like you had the trick of extending yourself to more possibilities, where you have actually a temporal addition of timing, where you have a timing in the first dimension horizontal, in the second dimension vertically, and in the third dimension diagonally. There's a whole system behind that, how that works. I'm not going to talk about that now, because I'm going to talk about that third option. So you can push it too far, but that it should be within reach, within a comprehensible there should be a comprehensible factor. What is the thing that I can understand? What is the thing that I can reach? What's the thing that I can describe? There are certain things that have open factors. The last category is about all these open factors, where you have actually a value, like with a G, it's an open value, and it goes to infinity as just like an open form, and it goes to beyond your scope of vision. But you can also reach it by defining it. Okay, but this is the part that we can define. We reach it from space, from a certain part we can reach, and I will give some examples for that as well. But first, let's go back to our last word that we described in the previous video, which was pole, and the additions of directions. I will say something extra about it. The pushing the limits, actually what it is, pushing the limits temporally, horizontally via time and space. A continuation, in the normal continuation of time, is the horizontal thing. The P is the diagonal thing. It actually pushes the full space into a new spatial context, space and time context, which has bigger values. And it pushes these things to these bigger values. It pushes that extra temporally vision outside our normal frame or scope of what we can understand and that we can keep in balance. The pole there is also pushing that limit. The pole itself is used also in buildings and so on. It pushes actually that these possibilities. The possibilities, what are these possibilities? Thanks to the pole, it has this diagonal pushes there, so that where it can overcome actually the overweight, the bigger frames. It's pushing its limits. That's what the P will do to create results also beyond your normal scope of possibilities. It is helping you to use these points to breach your normal possibilities, as you have that in the pole, of course, or in a building. You push your frame actually so that you can handle actually much more as you can usually do. But the R, the next letter, which I was going to add as well, instead of PAAL, I will also go to PAR with the R, and the R is on the next level. What will the next level do? It is also pushing the limits back actually to what it can control, and because the measurements in when you're going to have evolved bigger and bigger measurements, they cannot be measured, of course, but we want to have a control within a controlled environment, that we can handle actually also the measurements themselves, let's say, or the way how we behave with that and so on. There should be a certain control, and the R is about controlling actually also the pushing dimensions which you have there. The pushing dimensions are pushed 2 dimensions back theoretically, so you have 1 extra dimension in the movement D and Y, 2 extra dimensions O, A, and Z and W, because they push you push the limits via extra spatial frames, and you push the full frame in G, F, and P. I'm not going to talk about these things, but about pushing back the limits is something I will explain. And I will explain it also with some examples, because here it's abstract. You say, okay, shall we count that then? So we have the 3 extra dimensions of an extra space with an extra context in P. Now we go back 2 dimensions. Basically, it's actually going to more control, so we're not going to pay attention to the open factors, to the open borders. The borders are open. We do not see how far it will go and so on. We're not going to count that. We're going to count about where we will have the connection points actually, so that we can bring together the material via these points and control it via these points as well. So we're going to get it back to our controlled viewpoint actually. so that we say, okay, we have the other in this case will become the contemporary other. The last category of letters is all about trying to find out the definition of how the things work and see where at this moment I will have a contemporary application, so that I can have that applied at this moment. This moment is always at some other place, at some other time, but it will be a part of the definition. The definition can be defined in the big thing, but you can also define where the moment is that you can control. So then that moment is, I will tell you in a moment, is not always at the same place and time, but it's defined. You can define it. Paar or pair, we already know the word will be combined not just with P and R, also with a double A. Double A normally is 2 points, and these 2 points you could follow them within a horizontal frame eventually, but it will be there will be something special there if you would include also the vision of plus and minus dimensions. You do not have to use it, but it can help you to understand the focus that you will use. The focus that you will use in general will be, where is my application of my temporal frame now, and there I will make that connection. That one connection will be there. So plus 3 and minus 3, I will come to that later, but I'll first give another example of where we will limit our focus to the frame of the contemporary vision at this point, and we just leave the values that are too big. All the values that are bigger we will not define there. We will define them that we have a vision within that bigger frame. That's also something that you can describe, and therefore you need these letters. An example, I will use the example of the word grotte, grotto, or cave, which uses the letter G as a first letter, which actually tells us that we make a connection within space to a space which is enlarging, and that will be there. That will be done there in G. It will have that diagonal, and that diagonal will be expanded to this to the bigger values as well, but we will limit ourselves also to that part from where we are looking at, and in that case the G goes from space, so we're just looking at space which is bigger and even bigger than the thing that we can grasp with bigger values, as space is also like the space is the place where you place the things, where you can see, okay, there they are, that are the things, and it's becoming bigger. So you cannot define anything very well there, but the only thing I can say is, if you compare it to space, the space is getting bigger, the space in which the things match is bigger, the space in which the positions or definitions or objectives are bigger. So we cannot define them very well, but we know that it is bigger. Bigger values of space, which you are watching at this case with the cave, it's very clear that we also know that there is a much bigger space beyond it. We cannot define it. How big is the cave? How big is this viewpoint? That's not the point that we have. We only have the G, which means we know it from a spatial point of view. We know it is bigger. But thanks to R, we will also limit our definition to the point that we say, okay, but we also limit ourselves to the point that we know, the point that we can control, the point that we can see. So when G is getting bigger, the R is limiting itself to the frame, it's all about frames, the last category, to the frame of the area that we sense, that we can understand, and so on. So we make a connection. I'm not even pointing at the dimensions yet, but we know it will go to the dimensions of the material, where we will find the connection points within that material that we know at that contemporary vision, that at that point in time and space we will know how big it will be, and we will know how big it will be controlled. It will be different all the time. There will be no strict definitions of numbers, but there will be a strict definition of how we see this. So it's bigger than space, but we limit ourselves to the spatial references of where we can find connections. The connections are done with O, which is going towards the environment and seeing that the environment is becoming bigger, to T, which means I can find the positions there, the positions in that environment. And if you have even grotto, you go from one position to the next position, so that you can discover the whole environment, which is enlarged, but you can sense it by finding the placement that you can already find. So that's how the definition of grotte or grotto is understood. I hope you understood my explanation. But okay, well, let's go again to PAAL. We started from PAAL. We had the frame itself and what we understand here. My understanding is within space, and with also timing. We understand a certain timing. We understand a certain timing until we know what we can reach. That's the whole thing that we understand. The P is pushing the limits of our frame, of our contextual frame. So that means that there is a bigger frame beyond it. So we use a different concept that comes into a bigger space and time environment, and that's what P is doing. It pushes its possibilities, it goes towards more possibilities, it actually uses a bigger concept so that we will associate. That's Pa. With the word Pa, which also exists, we have it. Pa is used in a lot of language as a daddy. We know that it will breach the normal space and time context that we have, and it will have a connection to what is actually bigger, has a different context, a bigger context with more possibilities that we do not know yet, and we don't have to know it, but we can define it. It's bigger than life. Daddy at this point is bigger than life, and we know that it is, and that's how we associate it. How big it is, what we're going to learn there, what from him or whatever, or what he's going to show us. It doesn't matter. It's simply bigger, and it pushes our limits, and that's how it is conceived. How this word is conceived. Pa. So you have that. So normal. The other is then pushed as where the other is bigger than expected.